Hello, everybody. This is Mike from Nymphs, Knots, and Nonsense. And today I want to take you through tying the Safety Pin Bucktail Streamer. It's a little bit of a brooch. You can stick it on things. I have one that is on my hat. So this is my fly fishing hat. I have a fly that a guy named Mark made. So I keep that on there. This one I tied. I'll talk you through tying it. I want to start with a little bit of a story about a guy named Harold. So Harold was one of the members of my fly fishing club. Sadly, he's passed away. He was really interested in tying Atlantic salmon flies and using them, especially streamers. So inside of Maine, they have a big tradition of specific wing streamers, using them for fishing for brook trout, so big trophy brook trout, and for landlocked Atlantic salmon. And Harold liked to tie these. And then he got started tying these safety pin flies for people. And new members of the club, he would give them a safety pin fly. So it's been a tradition that we followed for quite a while. I got my fly when we hosted a local school that another club member, he was the principal of. So every year the school comes and they visit and they have nature day. And so we tie flies and we teach them how to tie flies. And so I got the one on my hat from Mark through that. It was just a leftover. And I said, hey, that's pretty cool. Added it to my hat. But anyway, that's a tradition. I like it. I wish more people would start doing it. But let's talk about this fly and how to tie it. Now, in order to tie this fly, you'll need a safety pin, not a hook. You'll need a safety pin. So these are 2-inch or 2.2-inch safety pins. They're a little bit long. And so what I found is that if you tie the full length of the fly like this one, you'll need a lot of material to make that work. So 2.2 inches is a little bit long. 1.5 is pretty good. 1.1 is pretty good. But you'll need these. And literally, I got a box of 300 of these things on Amazon for, $10. Just go buy some. They're pretty cool. Okay. Next, you'll need a thread. Obviously, in this case, I've got UTC thread in 70 denier. You probably want to use like a 140. 70 is a little bit light. You end up, especially when you make the head, you have to make a lot of wraps to make that head work. You need a Mylar tinsel. And this one is fun. It's gold and it's silver. So on one side is gold, the other side is silver. I'll talk a little bit more about that when we start tying the fly. But in this case, I use a medium UTC gold, silver Mylar tinsel. You need ribbing. For the ribbing here, I use a large French tinsel oval silver. Anything kind of a medium, large, extra large works really well. You just space it out in order to give it that segmentation. You need some bucktail. I use two types of bucktail. One is a white and brown, and I use the white from that for the underbody of the fly. For the underwing, I use another bucktail that's blue around the edges. So it's like this kind of almost fluorescent blue. And then this blue-green in the middle. So I use both a chunk of blue and a chunk of the green in order to make the over part of the wing. You need some peacock, and I use this strung peacock curl that I put on the back as sort of that darker spot, add a little bit of flair to the fly itself. You need some eyes, and these, I don't know how big these are. They're kind of small, right? You can see, let's see, something, scissors for scale, right? They're not very big at all. And I got a package of these. I literally have millions of these things in a pack of different sizes, and I just picked the small, tiny ones. I think they're like 2.5 or 3 millimeter, right? And that gives you the eyes. And then other stuff, I need a little touch of hard as hell to hold the eyes on. And I use my Loon fluorescing UV clear fly finish to make the head and to make the materials behave a little bit. So let's get started tying this thing. First thing I did was I took my safety pin and I just unpinned it and then put a 90-degree angle in. So this down here, the part that you can't see off camera right here, this is the pin part of the safety pin. And I just want to add that safety pin into the vise. With this head, it's really easy. I just clamp onto it. But I want to make this about as horizontal as I can. Realize that it's pretty flexible, so sometimes that's a pain. But it works close enough for what we're going to do today. I'm just going to take my thread and get that started. You might want to back off on the thread tension for this because if you do normally, I just pull and it brings the thread out. But in this case, you'll see it bends the safety pin. So a couple things. One is you can hold it here to give it more support and then wrap. That keeps it from wiggling as much. Or you could just reduce the tension in your bobbin holder. I'm going to cut off my excess here. And for this fly, I'm not going to go all the way down because if I go all the way down, it's going to make a fly that's incredibly long. It uses a lot of material. And so I'm just going to go and just big wraps, get it down to, 2/3 of the way down the shank of that safety pin. And that's where I'm going to start tying my fly. Okay. So something like that. Next that I want is some of my Mylar tinsel. Now, your Mylar tinsel, it has two sides. Okay. So this side is the silver side. This side is the gold side. Okay. And so depending on what color you want your fly to be, you can use different sides of it to make a gold fly or to make a silver fly, which is kind of cool. It's kind of adaptable that way. And I'm just going to cut off a chunk here. That's what I'm doing off camera here. I just cut off a chunk and I'm going to anchor my tag end here in the spool so that I have that available. And now I've got a chunk, and this is quite a bit, but it uses an amazingly large amount of material. Now here where it was stuck in the spool, it's kind of crimped up. So that's the part that I'm going to tie in. And I'm just going to cut it and leave a little bit of the crinkled stuff so I don't abuse as much material. And I'm going to make this one silver. So I'm going to put the silver down, and I'll show you here in a second. But I put the silver down. That means that the gold is up. And so I can start tying that in. Okay. And so I'll flip it. So you'll see it looks like this where it's tied in. Okay. Not really a big deal. Now I want to cheat this a little way and I want to go to the end of my thread. Now, the reason that I put the silver down is that when I start wrapping this, right? So you start wrapping this and you'll notice as you start wrapping, it exposes the silver, right? And that's how you get it. Materials do that. You just don't know that they do that because they're all the same material, the same color. But you want to wrap that in, and then I'm going to wrap in my tinsel. And my tinsel is pretty thick. So one of the things that I want to do is I want to never cut this with my scissors. So I have my wonderful little diagonal electrical cutters, and I am going to use them to cut off a chunk. So here you go, and cut off a chunk. This is incredibly thick material. Okay. Now I want to tie that in, and in this case, I'm tying it next to, so you'll see everything sort of is tied around in a sort of a loop around the shank of the hook. That's just style. It doesn't necessarily matter. I'm just kind of stupid about trying to do the same thing each time so I get better flies. Okay? And I've got that. It's all tied in, and now I'm just going to wrap that up to right here. And I'm going to stop a little bit short of the safety pin. That gives me room for a head up here. But then also I want to not crowd the the head of that safety pin. Okay, it just it'll your material will try to flip over and start wrapping on top of that, and I don't want that to happen. Okay, now little bit of a trick here. Throw in a half hitch or two. So there's one half hitch, and I'm gonna throw in a second. Just because. Okay, so I've got half hitches, and I'm going to screw my bobbin, wind my bobbin up a little bit so there's not as much slack hanging out in there. Okay, now first thing that I wrap is going to be my Mylar tinsel, and it's a little bit long, so I have to sort of just be patient with it and thread it along as I go. Towards the end of these, I'm always like, okay, be done already, because it does take a little while to wrap these. You could rotary with these, but you still have this tinsel, so you have to remember not to get too crazy with the wraps because of the tinsel. I also want to try to keep these overlapping just a little bit, so that way I don't have little pieces that pop up. So you see right here, I didn't overlap, and so the tinsel sticks up just a little bit. Okay, but in the grand scheme of things, like, these are gifts for people. Make them as nice as you want or as quick as you want. Not a big deal. Oop, that one was really bad. Let me back that off. Okay, here we go. Okay, getting close here. And a couple more wraps to it. Okay, now I'm ready to tie this off. I've got a little bit extra room, so I'm going to wrap instead of moving the thread. Okay. Okay, cool. Now, tie that off. Three, and I go cheat this just a little bit, so wrap it a little bit to the right, and bend this back. Give a couple wraps over the top of that to hold it in place. So now I have that nice U shape to the material there with thread underneath, in the middle, and above. And so that holds it really nicely. I'm going to go back and throw in a half hitch here, because I'm going to rotary style for the ribbing. Okay, whoop, there we go. Flip out my bobbin cradle and adjust that, because this is a long shank here that I got to work with. So I'm going to put that out, secure that, flip my bobbin holder over on top of it. And as you go rotary, watch this safety part of the safety pin, because these do have a habit of snagging your thread. I'm going to hold this up, and I'm going to go opposite. So I'm going to counterwind the way that I wrapped the body, that Mylar tinsel. I'm going to spread these out. I like a nice long, like, segmentation of these. Okay. And you'll see that safety pin really starts to bend as you do this. Just try to work with it. Don't pull too hard. If anything gets wonky, back it off. Do it again. This applies to any fly. Okay. Okay, and here we are. And I'm going to drop my bobbin holder out of the way and wrap over that. One. Oop. Hey, stay put. 2, 3. And you don't have to worry about the thickness of material here because I'm going to give this a big head and give it an eye or give it a set of eyes. So it's not as critical. Okay. So I got him tied off in there. So he looks like that. And I'm just going to go up here and give it a little snip. Not catching my thread. And now I can do a little bit of heavy duty work here. Okay. I want to get that a nice layer in there, just to cover up all those crazy ends that I put in there. Mostly because that ribbing is pretty thick. So you have to treat thick ribbing a different way. Now we're ready for some bucktail. So here I have this white and brown, and I want the white. Don't put too much bucktail on this, please. Because it will make it way too fat and the materials will eventually fall out. Hey, but I want to grab a little chunk of that. I'm going to cut that out. And you'll see the ends are kind of, they're scraggly. They're not very lined up. They're not lined up very well, right? And it's got a lot of underfur. So I'm going to take this and grab it this way. Take my Barbie comb, my awesome little Barbie comb, and I'm just going to go and get out any underfur. And if you grab it down a little bit lower, it'll grab out any of the shorter hairs. They'll come out, right? Or you can flick it, right? Or you could just lightly grab with your fingers. So I'm going to get out all the short fibers out of that. I'm going to take the whole thing and stick it into my hair stacker. You can try manually to even these out. Hair stacker sometimes works, sometimes doesn't for this, just because the material is so long and so weird. I'm just going to hit that on the table a little bit. Right, and so this one you'll see the ends start to get lined up there. And this thing, I just take it and literally tap it on the table like this. That evens out the ends. Sometimes they stick together, so I'll give it a little rotate this way. Throw that guy back down in there. The more I play with it, the more it has fibers that decide that they want to come free. They want to be free range fibers. Hit that a little bit more. Okay. And that gives me something that looks like that. Okay, so they're stacked in there pretty nicely. Then grab it like this and do a visual inspection. And there are a couple longer things in here. So I want to pull them out and place them back in. I just want to even out the hairs a little bit. While I'm at it, I want to switch hands. So I'm going to tie it in this way. So there's a longer guy. And there's a way longer guy. And that kind of works. A couple longer ones that are still there. I just pull them out and then stack them back in like that. Okay. So that's not bad. That's pretty cool. And I'm just going to take that, size it up. Want it about like that. Grab it with my left, make a big loose tie, a little bit tighter, working my way back towards the end. Okay. It also helps if you give your bobbin a little bit of a spin, so that way the thread lays down flatter. Okay. And I have that. is in there. Now it's time for me to do a cut. With this one, I'll pick this up and do a cut at a diagonal like that. And you'll see why here that I cheated it away from the end of the safety pin. Because that material starts to crowd that out. And so I'm going to take my thin scissors, my little detailed scissors, and I'm going to kill some of that off. Okay, like that. Cool. And then like that over here. Just trying to kill the material that's crowding the tip of the safety pin. Okay, cool. So hey, looks like that. Right, and I'm going to give this, now I have it here, just give it some broad wraps over the top. Okay, cool. Throw in a half hitch. Okay, and pull these up. Make sure that they actually sit over the spine of that hook, and they do. All right, if you want to see proof here, there's the proof. Cool. The next thing that I need is my blue here. And you'll notice in this bucktail, I have different colors. Right, so this one has a blue, like a light blue on the edges, and then kind of a blue-green in the middle. And so I'm going to use a little bit of both. And I don't want a lot of this. A little bit it'll do you, because I'm going to add a bunch of different colors, and I'm going to add my peacock over the top. So I don't want this one to be too much blue or too much blue-green. So here I cut a chunk of this off, and you'll see, right? It's not as much. I probably have too much in there, but it'll thin out. This one also has a lot more hair, or under hair in there. So I'm going to get rid of that with my Barbie comb. Okay, and you'll see I still have some. There we go. Okay. And I'm going to grab down here and then flip it. Give it a little light pull. And see, the size of that gets reduced. Okay, cool. So it's going to look like that. And that's pretty cool. I like that. Now, I'm going to try to even these up with my hair stacker. Again, might be mixed results, but let's give it a shot. It doesn't hurt unless things go poof and you lose all of it together. Okay, and so it looks like that now. Okay, switch is okay. We're doing okay. Grab these guys in here. Like that, like that. Yeah. Now we're talking pretty well. And I'm going to lay that down. Try to match up the length a little bit. Lay that down. I got to grab it closer to my knot. Okay. And now I'll pull all this slack out of my bobbin. My bobbin got long. And I'm going to lay that down. Get a couple loose wraps. Start tightening it up. But you remember, you're not making a deer popper. You don't want to like really crank down on it. You just want to cover it up and bind this one down. Okay. And then I am ready now for cutting. So I'm going to take this. I'm going to go like that. And so now I have my blue end. Okay, and that's pretty cool. Now I'm going to tie over the ends just a little bit to keep those down. Go about halfway up. Cool. And I'm starting to rotate a little bit here. Okay, now it's time for a little bit of that blue-green. And this one is a tiny bit will do you. So I'm going to take like that. Okay, so here we go. That's way too much, but as always, it'll get smaller. That's probably the hardest part of this fly is getting little trace amounts of the bucktail and then knowing that half of it will disappear. And so trying to get enough, but not too much. And the ends here are really not lined up. So I'm going to stick those in the hair stacker as always. And some of the fibers won't be long enough to actually make it. All right, so I'm going to pull that out. That looks like that. And I'm going to Barbie comb this because I still see fuzzies in there. I still see some shorties in there. Okay, cool. Lengthen. So squish this all down, put the right length in there, go like this, and tie it in. 3 or 4 loose ties and start adding a little bit more pressure. Okay, I'm working my way towards the end and it starts to go poof up, which is okay. Because we'll make it settle down nicely with UV resin here. So you don't have to worry too much about it. But now I want to cut out all of my ends. Okay, so we got that. And now I want to tie down over the top of the loose ends, which is good. Okay, and we've got a nice little head that's starting to get developed here. Starting to look nice. Now it's time for Peacock. And with the Peacock, these are strung. This is strung Peacock. So you see they're all tied in like this with all of the quill ends down here at one end. So I just pull them out, and some of these you'll get quill ends. So that's a quill end. You'll see it looks kind of like paperish in there. So there's a quill end, there's a quill end. This one right here, like that guy, he used to have a quill end, but that broke off. So I'm going to try to make the ends be a little bit even. And then you'll see that some are a little bit longer, some are shorter. I do have a couple more that I added here. So this one, I'm going to drop them in here. And you want like 4 or 5 strands of these. You don't want a whole lot. Right? And it's just to make kind of that back spine look. And so I've got these, all the quill ends are kind of evened up. So if I were to take this and hold it like this, and I can tie it in, there's no quill end that's sticking out over the body of the fly. That's all that I want. I don't have to worry too much um, about the material over here because I'm going to cut it off, right? So I put that down the spine. And you'll see it'll the peacock is a little bit more fragile than the bucktail, and it has a tendency to sort of wander. Don't worry too much about it. We'll add a drop of UV resin in here that'll make it all sit down like that. Okay. And I am ready to cut. So I've got some scissors here and cut that off. Cool. Now, I'm not worried about trimming these, even though you see some long ones. I'm not worried about trimming these yet. I want to make my head first. And so get in here and I'm just going to add a thread. It will bind down all the peacock. So you saw some peacock that was there. And now I am wrapping in and around. And you'll see what I want to do is try to make this a ball. And right now what I have is this part, basically the front half of it is a little bit small and I want to build that up. But if I build it up too aggressively, then it'll all slough. It'll all slide on top of itself and dump down here into this part. So what I want to do is, number one, spin my bobbin. That makes my thread a lot flatter. And I'm going to go wrap, wrap, go back to the center, wrap, 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 go back to the center, and go far side, come back, and just start building that up nicely. Okay. Come here, you. Okay. We're looking pretty good here. Now, I think I am ready to finish this fly off. So I am giving it a half hitch here. Okay, and another half hitch. And then tying a whip finish is incredibly hard because this thing moves like this. So you have to be really careful when you whip finish it. One. It also moves. All right. I'm going to do this. I'm going to cheat. So I'm going to resin over the top of this. So I'm going to take it right here to behind that part so I can whip finish right here and it's not going to move anywhere. Okay. Okay, so there's a whip finish. And what the heck? I'll do one more. 2, 3, 4. Pull that up tight. Okay. So I got 2 nice whip finishes in there. Just cut that free. Go like this, gather all my peacock together. Couple strands already, they popped out of my fingers, so they know that they're at the right length. And these guys, I'm gonna give it right here. Okay, so now I got my peacock trimmed. Things are good. There is a tendency here for these hairs. So these hairs right here want to keep flipping down, and that's okay. They're on the near side, so the side part closest to the camera. And I can make those behave here in just a second. Okay, hopefully I can make them behave. Okay. Now it is time for a little bit of UV resin. So you'll see I take this, I take my fingers like this and go over the fly. Okay. And so I'll show you like this, and then pull all the material up and then push it down. So now everything's gathered, but normally I do that going down. And then I am going to take my UV resin and a little bit here to the head. Rotate like this way. Add a little bit right here to the base of the hair, and you'll see it soak into the fiber. Flip it this way, so the opposite way. A little bit right in there. Okay. Finish out the head. Don't worry too much about it because I'm going to give it several layers. And then cure that. Okay, and it starts to hold, all those errant fibers start to hold a little bit better. And you'll see that the head starts to get a little bit glossy. That's cool. That's cool. Next thing I want to do, one more treatment of that. So I'm going to do the same here. Hit this. And I'm going to wrap around, hold it, and then push it down. So that way these ones on top get trained a little bit better to go flat. Okay. So I'm going to add a little drop there. Okay, cheat a little bit down. And go back to the head, give the head a nice little thing. Rotate it, add a drop here. Rotate it, add a drop here. Make sure that looks okay. Okay, a little bit right behind the head. And then quite a bit on the head. And that's cool. And now I am going to hit it with the UV torch. Okay. And I'm going to rotate it. Okay. I got one fiber up here that, there we go. No, I didn't get him. And I could see him when I hit it with the UV torch, but I couldn't see it without. So, okay. Okay. So now, so we're looking pretty good there. Now for the eyes. In order to get the eyes to stick, because it's a slippery little body, and sometimes you get eyes that don't have glue that's that good. So what I will do is I will flip it to the side like this. I will take just a little bit of hard as whole, put a drop right there with my bodkin, right? So now I have a little drop there. Take an eye and place it right there, and it will stick in place. Okay. And you kind of want it, so you'll see how it sticks up just a little bit. If I flip it like this, oh, it looks good that way. But you want it to flip it in and hold it in place because otherwise it'll slide around. Let that dry. I'll blow dry that a little bit. Then I'll move this, move it to the down position. I'm going to do the same thing. So a little drop of hard as whole, or you can use Flexament, or you can use, any kind of little glue will do it. You just need enough to hold it there so that you can put resin over the top. Right? So put a little dab of glue there, take an eyeball. Okay. And make sure this is flat. Throw an eyeball. Okay. So I've got an eye there. Flip it around. I've got an eye there. Life is good. Those will dry in just a second because it's head cement. So it's just, your regular hard as whole head cement. Then once that's solid, I want to go back and add a little bit of UV resin. Okay. So it'll do a little bit there, a little bit there. A little bit more over here. Okay, there we go. You want to get it to wick underneath the eyeballs. Okay. Once you take a look. So you see they used to stand out, but now they've got the UV resin wicked underneath the eyeballs. They are ready to be cured. And so I'll cure them. And that UV resin will hold them in there pretty tight. But you'll see as I rotate this, they still stick up by a little bit. And so I want to go in and add more UV over the top, or UV resin over the top, until I get a nice rounded head, including the eyes. Otherwise, that you can whack them so they'll hit a corner or an edge and they'll pop off. Okay, so I got that. That's cured okay. It's time for more. Okay, got it pretty nicely there. Okay, that's pretty good. Give it a little spinny spin while I cure it. Okay, and that's looking pretty decent, but I need another coat on the top of that. Okay, you'll also see a little bit is cheated back towards the body there. So you see that I have some resin that has moved and it's actually like in this little part here. And that's okay. That's okay. You'll see a little bit of coloring from it, but that's all right. What I really want to do is make sure that I get that head covered. Okay. And I think I want to give it one last long cure. And there we go. That is my Safety Pin Bucktail Streamer. As always, I've been Mike. This is Nymphs, Knots, and Nonsense, and I will see you in the next video.